Inside at last.
Welcome, fellow Taffers, to Inside at Last, the one and only thief-dedicated podcast. My name is Alex, and today, I have the French connection here. First of all, my two former guests and co-moderator, SKACKY, is here, and FIREMAGE. Welcome, guys, and welcome back.
Hello.
Ha! That was the same. It's great to have you here, and thanks for doing this with me. Of course, we have a special topic for our 30th episode, by the way, and it's the special guest Dana Nightingale, or maybe you guys Taffers know her as Digital Nightfall from earlier times. Welcome, Dana, and thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Many people asked me about, like, hey, could you maybe make that happen? And you were so kind to immediately say yes, which is always nice. How are you today? How are you feeling with this?
I am doing okay. I'm a bit tired, as is often the case.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, you're a very busy person, so I can imagine.
I can be, yeah.
So, I think we would just start with the standard question every first-time guest has to face when we do that. So maybe if you could be so kind to tell the Taffers who don't maybe know who you are, who you are, what you are doing, and what you think is maybe the reason you are here today. Since it's a thief-focused podcast.
Yeah. Well, I am currently the campaign director at Arcane Leon. That's a position where I am basically owner of the player's critical path. So I am responsible for all of the stuff that all players will see and experience throughout the game. So it's the things like what's the tutorialization? How does the player ease into the world? How do they understand the gameplay? And then it's the main spine of the game's storyline, often expressed through missions, but it isn't necessarily through missions, all the way until completion of the game, until roll credits. So if it's a side mission, I don't want to know about it. I want to experience that as a player for the first time while I'm playing the game. I'm only focused on the main through line through the whole game. That's what the campaign director does. But most of my career was spent doing level design. I was a level designer on nearly every Dishonored game. Only one I didn't work on was the DLC, the Brigmore Witches. I worked on all the others. Most people know about the Clockwork Mansion from Dishonored 2. That's the map that I did the level design for that most people know about. And before that, I was a thief modder. And before that, I with this where am I going with this? Once upon a time in the dark ages of 1998, I saw that this charming fellow on the internet, I think his name was Sam Taraverdi, had a scoop about System Shock 2 being in development, and he was running this website about System Shock. So I'm like, Thief had already been announced at the time. I was just devouring every single piece of content I could possibly discover about Thief. I had been a fan of this studio. Were they still called Looking Glass Technologies at the time? I think there were studios already.
Yes.
Back when they were called Blue Sky Productions, I was already a fan of these folks. I played Ultima Underworld when I was 12. It just blew my mind. It changed my life, honestly. Ultima Underworld, Underworld 2, System Shock, Terra Nova. So I was so ready for Thief and think, oh, here's System Shock 2. So I'm talking with Sam, and we're like, let's do like a big website about Looking Glass Studios. Call it ttlg.com, through the Looking Glass, and that's probably why I'm here.
Probably. Yes, of course. You were a part of the. Yeah, you are actually the person who started it. And what we
Well,
are
Sam was
still.
already running a System Shock fan site before I met him. That was already in place.
Yeah, but okay, but you are part of the founders of the whole
Yeah.
TTLG project, which we are still benefiting from today, which is pretty amazing.
I see. I see.
And it's well documented, all the stuff you guys did back then, and the amazing achievements. But we will come to that. Thanks for the insights already. And the second and most important question for the whole podcast: how did you stumble upon Thief? Really?
Lookinglessstudios.com.
Yeah,
That's good.
At the time
that's a good.
they had announced a Terra Nova multiplayer DLC. And it's like, you go there like every couple of days and you're refreshing it, and you're doing that for years. And then one day they announced something called the Dark Project. And it's really vague. And they have this really like mysterious and avant-garde. I'm pronouncing that terribly. I'm sorry, we have French people here. It's a very mysterious website. It was like, I'm sure FromSoft was like halfway through their what was it called? A Kingsfield.
Yeah, Kingsfield.
They
Yeah,
were already doing Kingsfield, so of course they were already doing super just obscure and mysterious things. But this website for the Dark Project just revealed nothing about the game whatsoever. It was so vague. It was
Which actually
so
fits the game a bit.
yeah, it was. It was just the site was incomprehensible, but it was so mysterious and so fascinating. And then later they changed the name to Thief because I guess someone told them that, people won't want to buy your game if they don't know what it's about. Um, but yeah, that's how I discovered Thief.
But it's funny that the game in Europe was actually called the Dark Project.
yeah.
Yeah, they swapped the
Yes.
subtitle. Well, in the US it was Thief: The Dark Project, but it used to be called just The Dark Project.
But still, they kept the name for Europeans, and but I think you, SKACKY, told me us once that in France it was called the Thieves Guild, right? With the
Yes,
subtitle.
that's right. Yeah, it's called Dark Project with Thieves Guild, which makes no sense.
That's well, sometimes the game title gets decided for you,
Yeah, you're right.
and sometimes they do a great job.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to speak very little about my work at Arcane, but when they proposed Deathloop, we were so incredulous. But maybe it took us a couple of weeks to warm up to it, but then when we started to see all the key art and the and like what they were going to do with this title, we're like, okay, yeah, we get it. That's cool.
I think nowadays it's a bit easier, but back in the days, English wasn't so spread among people in Europe. So I think they try to change things sometimes, especially with the TH, for example, with the thief.
Yes. Thief is extremely difficult to pronounce for a French person.
And Germans, yeah. But I think nowadays it's
Yes.
better because with Thief Deadly Shadows, I think they got on with it. So you already were a huge Looking Glass Studios or Technologies fan from early. So it was obvious that you will suck in every little thing you can find on information about games from them.
Yeah, of course, at the time, it was so hard to find any information. You had to wait for your monthly subscription of whatever magazine you were subscribed to, like crossing fingers that there would be at least an ad or something.
Or a screenshot, especially from Thief, when they then look totally ugly because they had to scale up the brightness so much that you couldn't actually guess what it's about. That was I remember the first screenshot I saw of Thief 2. I was like, "What is that? Is it a desert?"
Oh yeah, the marketing for Thief 2 was rough.
Yeah, it was really hard with that dark pictures and stuff. But we're still in it. At least three of us. So, Dana, since you said you're a bit tired, you had a busy week.
Yeah.
You were playing an important role at the GDC this year, so maybe you want to tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I was pulling double duty because I had a talk as part of the UX summit that's user experience. I someone actually asked me like how many hours did you spend on your talk, and I did like some calculation, and it was some astronomical number. Basically, like working full time for a month, but spread over 4 months. Anyway, the talk I gave was to be not coy about it. It was the story about how we really embrace user research while designing Deathloop. And we had in all the previous games, of course, as well. But user research as a field has really evolved over the years, and the amount that we interacted with the user research on Deathloop was extraordinary. So I told this story about how we redesigned the opening of the game, basically in alpha, and redesigned the structure of the game basically in beta, as a result of the user experience, and this wild ride. And it's I talked for 40 minutes, and full of twists and turns, and like incredibly stressful and difficult moments where we think we had gotten it right, and the reports come in and things are actually worse, and um it's a fun talk. I enjoyed telling a good old fashioned a game dev war story. So that was my contribution to the UX summit, which I was a guest at. But my work at GDC was as an advisor for the level design summit, which is like my main profession has been level designer. So I advised one of our level designers, Megan, on her talk about Deathloop. I won't say too much about that. That's her story to tell. But also, I worked with Harvey Smith, which I hope is a name that's very familiar to this audience. About we brought together developers, not even just like designers or level designers, but these are small indie teams, so they're wearing many hats from some of the independent immersive sims that are really, like Harvey and I feel, are carrying the torch that was lit so long ago. So we had a guest from Gloomwood, Dylan. I know all of them. I know all their first names, but I'm gonna totally mess up their last names. His name is
Rogers,
Dylan.
right?
Dylan Rogers to talk about Gloomwood. We had Suzanne Wills to talk about Blendo is making their. I feel like Quadrilateral Cowboy was already an immersive sim, so I wouldn't say it's their first immersive sim, but they're pushing further in that direction that they started with Quadrilateral Cowboy, which is like a ridiculously cool game. I highly recommend it. But they're making a game called Skin Deep, and Suzanne is working on that. A very enigmatic fellow called Snaketicus, who's working on a project called Peripetia, which is Greek for reversal of fortune, which is significant because Deus Ex Machina basically is a reversal of fortune. It's basically, they named their game Deus Ex. I love it.
That's amazing.
And finally, Per Stacy, who is at Arcane Austin right now as a level designer, but he spent a lot of time working on a project called Tangiers, which has been an immersive sim that's been in development for like 10 years. And I'm just like, cannot wait to finally see this. It looks fantastic. I think of the batch, this is the one I'm most excited about. So fingers crossed for them that they'll cross the finish line. But yeah, I was, and I reached out to other teams beyond those four. And it was a mixture of not available or never got back to me or just saw the message too late because they're not always easy to get in touch with. We really wanted someone from Cruelty Squad, but they just
Oh yes.
never responded. Yes, so I that was my work for GDC. And I hear it went really well. I can't wait to actually see the panel. I haven't gotten to see it, but I hopefully will soon.
Yeah, that sounds great. And what I really like is that like your interest in this kind of game, is still with you, and you made
Yeah.
it your job, which is really amazing. May I ask, because I
Yes.
think for many people that's very interesting, like how was the transition? So you were a fan of games, then
Yes.
you started like modding and creating with Dromat for Thief. Um, but what happened then? Because I remember like a Pura's story, how he came to Arcane, which was really connected to the Thief, what he was creating. But may I ask how you ended up? I want to say, or how you came into the games industry really and could do it as a job.
Well, I kind of zigged and zagged because for various reasons, decided that I needed to get a air quotes real job. So I decided to go into architecture. I felt like that was the field that was the most aligned with what I was passionate about with game design, authoring spaces, um, creating flow and layout, and all that kind of good stuff that a level designer does. An architect does too. So, of course, that was the beginning of an incredibly difficult education that took over most of my 20s. And I had the great fortune of graduating into one of the worst recessions since the Great Depression, 2008. I think it's been topped by now, though, I'm pretty sure. But at the time, it was pretty shocking. And there was just no work in architecture. Um, Thankfully, I still loved video games. So I dusted Drummond back off. Uh, we finished up Mission X. I started working on other projects. I started working in Unreal. I basically realigned myself back to like, okay, this architecture thing is going to be useful because it's a great design fundamentals like foundation, but I really want to work in video games, and if the world is going to go to hell and nothing in my life is turning out the way I planned it, why not aim for the thing you actually want instead of compromising? Because like you can compromise and things go to hell anyway. So why didn't you go for the thing you actually wanted and then things go to hell and like, well, then there's no regrets. So I applied to a lot of places. I got interviews at very few. I had been interviewing at Arcane for years. They were always very happy to talk with me. Um, they like I first talked with the founder of the studio, Rafael Contonio, back when they were trying to get Arx Fatalis off the ground. I did an interview with him about that game. Way back when. That's a whole nother story. But suffice it to say, I was still in touch. I had been to Iron Storm. I visited them in person once. So I had
Ooh.
met Harvey Smith. Yeah, that again, that's a whole nother story when I
May I,
visited
may I
Iron
just
Storm.
ask, was it the Ironstorm division that created Thief, or?
This was right before they were about to ship Thief Deadly Shadows. So they invited me over. They
Wow.
invited me in Sam over
But
to
didn't they have like the wasn't that the division? Because I think there was the main division from now how was the name from Doom?
Oh, John Romero.
Yeah,
then I think Anachronox, that whole branch was gone by that point. I think it was just Warren Spector's crew at
yeah,
that point.
in Austin, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was in
Yeah,
Austin.
yeah,
They were
and
divided between a team doing I guess they were doing Deus Ex 4. I think I'm allowed to say that. I think other people have mentioned that. I think I think H Bomber guy just mentioned in his Deus Ex video that Iron Storm was working on Deus Ex 4. So I think it's cool if I say that. Um, anyway, yeah, I met Harvey in person back then. So like I was bugging them all the time, like saying I want to work for them. Little did I know that they were going through hell at that period, which has now thankfully been documented by NoClip. All of those canceled projects that the NoClip documentary goes into, that's what they were doing while I was like bugging them for a job. So that's why I didn't get one. But as soon as they signed Thief with Bethesda, they called me up. And it's a good thing too, because I had just gotten my rejection call from Irrational.
Ah.
Yes. I like in an alternate timeline, I went to work on BioShock Infinite.
I have to admit that I'm very happy that you work where you work today because I think
Me too. Me too.
your contribution
Yeah.
to Dishonored.
Yes.
But I think it's very interesting because of course it's logical. Like architecture and of course level design are so close together that it totally makes sense to hire someone. And yeah, and I think the outcome is pretty amazing. I think they had a good nose for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that resonates with me because before I wanted to start in games, I almost did an architecture school. Back when I was kind of choosing what I wanted to do in terms of studies. But then I got a job, so I was like, okay, no studies. I'm just gonna work on games.
But what I
Well,
really like is I think maybe that is something you could really point out is like Dana that you I like the thing where you said hey the Earth is going to hell anyway, so why not focusing on what I really want to do, and yeah, you at the end you did it, which is really amazing. I think that could be very inspirational, I would say.
I hope so. And it's a piece of advice that came back to me later in life, and I realized that I had to follow. Because, sometimes you never realize how much you're holding back until like there's certain moments of truth where you have to acknowledge that you've known all along what would really make you happy, and you're just not doing it because you're afraid. And and trying it and failing feels worse than not having tried, but it's not true. The opposite is true. Because you're not really going to fail. You're not really going to fail. You you'll find a way. If it's meant to it like it's your life. You have to go for it.
So it's a nice life advice here. Uh, Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I will use
Um,
it wisely because it's my case.
yeah.
I think that
Sorry, go on, please.
No, you can carry on. You can carry on. No problem.
okay. I'm going to raise the volume on you though so I don't miss it next time.
Um, so yeah, and here you are. But I think now we can go back in two times, and I think what many people want to know is like the petition thing. I think this was something that happened really early.
Yeah.
And it's well documented. But can you please tell us from your perspective, because you were the active person behind that? Uh,
Well, honestly, all the credit goes to Tommy Holming. He's the one who believed in this. I wanted it to be true. I was skeptical. I'm like, yes, let's do it because if it works, like I want it to have been worked, but it was his idea. He's the one who put it together. He's the one that was like, the tip of the spear on this idea. So, a lot of people ask me about it, and I always say the same thing. You need to talk to Tony Holming. His name was Trimfict at the time. This is the guy who made that happen.
But still, I think you must have had a feeling. Like, how did that feel that you guys did that? And have you been like nervous? Like, what will come back? How will they react to that?
I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it. I was used to the game devs being like these, ghostly figures who lived mysterious lives beyond the mortal plane or whatever. I don't know. But like no, they're just a bunch of folks who did work that they're proud of, and they're more than happy to actually interact with you if you're like coming to them earnestly of like, we want to be able to do what you do. Can you help us? And they're like, yeah, sure, why not? And they were convinced that we would take one look at that editor and we would just, we would flake out. We wouldn't be able to handle it. But again, this is Tony Holming. He grabbed that thing. He jumped onto the hump of the camel and was like, okay, let's make this work. And he made that map, gathering at the bar. And the folks at Looking Glass looked at it and were like, oh, holy shit. He actually did it.
Yeah.
Motherfucker actually did it.
The lesson here is read never to underestimate your fans because they will do things that
Yes.
you don't know they're capable of. It's really funny.
Yeah. So after they saw that, yes, just a regular person. I mean, Tony Holming was I think he was a software developer. I'm not sure what his job was actually. But yeah, he could grab it, he could work with it, he could learn how to use it, and he could make a map. So they're like, okay, yeah, let's release it.
And we are
amazing.
still benefiting from that thing, from that idea, which is, you
Yeah.
can just be grateful for that.
Mhm.
And may I ask you, how is that for you? If you look at it, it's still like the community is still existing. We still have contests, new missions coming out. I don't know if you heard of New Dark.
Oh yeah, totally. I know about New Dark, yeah.
Yeah.
I know
So
that like Mission X doesn't work on New Dark, or does it?
But it does. There was a patch for it recently.
Okay, that's
Well, semi
Yes.
recently.
It has been patched to work better. There are
okay.
some trouble of
Mission X
compatibility between
always.
Old Dark and New Dark on some missions.
Okay, that's really. But sorry, go ahead.
do you feel some kind of, I don't know, is it proud or I don't know, that what you started back in the days?
Nostalgia?
Yeah, is it like, did you feel great? Like, hey, it's still going on. We started something and people are still continuing the legacy in some way. How does that feel?
I don't know if proud's the right word, but I feel like comforted by it. I feel contented.
Yeah.
It's satisfying. It makes me smile.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
imagine.
because your whole legacy is keep inspiring people over the years. The work you made as a fan is still inspiring creators such like me or even SKACKY or many others. There are also the tools that some pioneers such like you made, which are still used nowadays. It's amazing everything you've made. And the simple fact you have created TTLG is just making the community carrying on and still creating new content for the game. They will be beloved.
That is really wonderful to hear.
Yeah, it's really funny because
Yes.
we have a Discord for Drumhead, and
Mhm.
there are new people who come on it every other day.
Wow.
Yes, it's still going strong.
Wow, that's really
Yes.
cool.
And in almost every new contest, there is a new person taking part of, like a first of them. So I don't know. It's amazing. Like I don't know if there will be a 25-year contest.
Maybe.
No, but now the New Dark contest is going on, as I remember.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think maybe we can maybe come to a first question from the Taffers. And yeah,
Okay.
thanks, Dana. I have to say that here, Waicha, I almost overlooked your questions on the forums, but Dana luckily looked over it as well, and I almost overlooked that because the link directly pointed me to Clatremus' question. So luckily, I found them, or we found them. So thanks, Dana, for that. Would have been a shame. So yeah, we can do the first question, I guess, from Whitechar from the forums. Do you observe the community from the shadows, play fan missions, or check the forum from time to time, which would be really sneaky?
I will check TTLG from time to time, but honestly, with the forum I'm looking at is general gaming. I'm looking to see what the TTLG gang is playing right now.
Ah,
I am sorry to say I have not been checking the Thief forums or the fan mission forums. But I'll peek in on general gaming just to see like what's hot among the old immersive sim fans. What are they looking at? What's catching their attention? Are they talking about Redfall? That kind of thing.
May I ask?
But
May I ask? Like, what are your observations? Like, is there things that surprise you, or is it like, oh yeah, I would play the same, or I like that game too, or what?
I wouldn't say surprise. It's more of an interest. It's more of like, you know, maybe like once or twice a year I'll take a peek in just to see. Or the last time I did it was right after Redfall was announced to see if there was any reaction from that. And honestly, I can't even remember what I saw there. But yeah, it's kind of a curiosity. Like I want to know, is the community still focused on only immersive sims? Like, is there a thread there for Gloomwood? Is there a thread there for Tangiers? But it's not something that is like an active investigation. It's more like, you know, the curiosity will strike me every now and then, and I'll take a peek. But
And
that's really about it.
and do you like? And of course, the community would talk about games that you were also creating. So if you read about that, or do you read about that? If there would be a Dishonored threat, would you read it, or would you say like, maybe I don't want to know what they think?
I think I didn't read the thread about Deathloop. I felt like that game might be a bit divisive among the TTLG folks. So
Not that much. I
just
read it.
don't
Yeah,
know.
it's not that much.
Yeah. Well, that's
But
good to
but would it be that I think is interesting? Like, would it be different maybe to read some maybe not so positive reactions to your game on the forums from Thief or TTLG in general than at a general game forum or Steam or whatever?
Honestly, like on a purely emotional level, I think it would be. Like if I just like search for the name of the game on Twitter and I see, you know, every rando's shit take, then it's going to be a mixture of interesting and bullshit and whatever. But if I look at what people on TTLG think about the things I've worked on, I can't help but care about what everyone is saying.
I know.
Like I can't help it. Like I'm gonna look at it and go like, wow, every single post here is important to me. And yeah, I kind of admire Dinga, our creative director, who's able to take the criticism in such stride. I'm a little too sensitive. Still, I read the criticism and I'm kind of like, oh, I wish we could have done better, or I don't think they're right, or all these other, you know, very raw reactions. And
Yeah, I'm exactly like this as well, so I can relate.
like, but if I'm like reading that on just, you know, another website or a YouTube channel or um or just wherever, but if it's from you all, then it means a bit more.
That's some credit. But I think I can imagine it's in general very hard because I think gamers can be really asses. Yeah, salty
Tough.
asses.
Gamers can be tough. I wouldn't say asses. I mean,
Ungrateful bastards sometimes. It's what I'm saying. It's not, it's my words. So
I've seen both cases really, like really nice people. You can talk to them, and if they don't like something, they'll say it to you in a manner that is constructive. And then you have the complete opposite, which is just like, yeah, just like Dana said, random bullshit shit take.
as I said, they can be. I don't say they all are, of course not. But I think if it's like, as you said, yeah, it can be really great or interesting, or really bad. And I think gamers are, yeah, there are many among the internet. Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
if you read over whatever game it is, yeah. So you need some elbows, I think, sometimes. But
And criticism is one thing.
do you still think about Thief? or like in its inhabitants, the city, or is it maybe some inspiration today for things?
Yeah, I always keep in my back pocket, what if Bethesda and now Xbox just happens to acquire the Thief IP? I've got my plan ready. I am not going to tell you what it is. You know, that stuff happens.
Yes.
You look at the way the industry moves and IPs change hands. This studio buys that studio. What do we do if suddenly the IP is available? We need that plan ready,
Well,
and
first we
we
pop the
can't tell anyone
champagne.
what it is. Sorry.
First we pop the champagne, then we think.
Yes. What do we think?
Yeah, finish COSAS Mission 3 then. What was it called?
The 9-year sleep.
Yeah, 9 Years Sleep, right?
Sleep.
Just replayed it today. What you can play at least. It still
Oh,
looks
that's
amazing.
right. We did release that.
Yeah, it still looks amazing, even by today's standards with New Dark and stuff. It looks very interesting, and yeah. But
Yeah.
you know, since and I think when you look at your page and stuff, so the architecture stuff is, of course, is always very present. Like
Mm.
how is that for you? Like when you create something with an editor like Dromat, I think, which is, I want to say, limited or really hard to handle. I think you guys know more than me. Like, could you always do what you had on your mind, or have you been limited by the editor too often? Maybe, I don't know.
When we were working on Circle of Sun and Shadow, none of the advancements had been made yet. Every single limit was still full in effect. So really everything we did, we were hitting hard limits. And that was honestly the most excruciating part of it is, do you compromise on the vision, or do you spend an extra year working on this convoluted plan to find a way to make the ideas still work within all of these hard limits? And that's part of what made Mission X take 7 years. The biggest part, of course, was I was going through architecture school at the time, and everyone else working on it was also going through some version of a university or full-time job or something. We were all really busy. But it was all of those limits. And I'm sorry, I've forgotten the question.
Um, I was just asking if you could realize all your imagined architecture in your head, or if you have been compromised by the editor. That was the basic question.
Oh no, it was constantly being compromised. Yeah, the limits on like just the polygons in view at a time, the number of like cells, the number of, I think there was like something like 15 or 20 different limits on the engine, and you were always hitting one of them and always having to like find some bizarre solution or just dialing it back. Yeah, it was tough.
I can
It's
imagine.
still tough,
I hope it's
but
better now. I
better.
hope it's better now.
It is better, but it's still tough.
Yeah.
But when was the point where you realized, okay, now we'll have to stop this project? Because just today, after I replayed Mission X a bit, and I went through the README file, you said the last sentence in the about text, if we do go forward with the rest of the COSAS project, and I feel strongly that we will, it will no longer be the case that MX will stand out as a unique experiment. But yeah, when was the point where you realized, okay, that we have to stop this?
Probably my first year of architecture school.
Mhm.
Was when like a couple of us together. This is a very vague memory because this is like, more than 10 years ago, more than 15 years ago. It was like, if we only do one COSAS map, like let's look at our entire plan, everything, every idea, every hope and dream. If we only finish one, which one should it be? And it was Mission X. And at that point, it was like, let's put everything we have into this, so that if it's really the only one we ever do, we are not disappointed. We still feel like we did the thing that we hoped it could be, and I feel like we did that. I can't speak, of course, for all the creators. I hope they feel as satisfied and happy with it as I did. I am, of course, still very proud of it, but really that early, the campaign was effectively cut, and it was, let's just do Mission X.
And what was your main focus on? Have you been very involved in the story, or were you more like really into the level design, or what was your main focus, your part?
I did a little bit of everything. The main architecture was done by a fellow named Finial, who we lost contact with at some point, and I picked up where he left off. So I did architecture for a lot of the areas. Fox and Yemitha, who were both just absolutely brilliant at this, way better than me, handled a lot of the story and the technical aspects. Yemitha in particular would like way before you could do visual scripting in something like Unreal, she was creating these flow charts of what the scripting would look like in Mishix. And of course, Drama doesn't have visual scripting. She just imagined it as visual scripting. She planned it all out. And I followed her plan verbatim, and there was never a single bug in it. It was always perfect. Like, I don't know how she did it. Like just absolutely a genius. So really, I just kind of helped out the team where the team was hurting. Like if for example, our soul, who I didn't realize that his name was Arsehole until I said it out loud.
Oh, right. I didn't realize that either.
That is
It took
on
me a while as
purpose.
well.
His name is Arsehole.
Yeah.
But like, we would have Yandros or Arsol or Mortal Monkey or Doom handling the scripting. Like, there's this other random task that no one has time to do. I would jump on that. I was like, Mission X was my baby. It was my idea. I wrote the main plot outline. I didn't write the script. I want to say that Fox wrote the script. I think a couple of different people worked on the script. But honestly, the role that I had on Mission X is very similar to what a creative director in the AAA industry does. I was the one that cared about everything. I was the one that looked at everything. I was the one that if I saw a problem, I tried to figure out how to fix it. And if I couldn't do the work, I would try to find the person who could. I would go back into the community and say, we are really, like, for example, we don't have anyone who can handle doing the maps. We really need help with the maps. So I went out and I found someone. I needed the credits document to jog my memory. Her name was Starcella. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Just sometimes you just find somebody to help you out. So it was a little bit of everything, a little bit all of the above.
I think I remember when we talked to Pura. Yeah, you've been like the pioneers of the whole thing. You had to figure out something for all of the all the problems you stumbled upon, and you did that. I'm always impressed by how someone can be so hard on something. Like we're doing this. No matter if your wife is in your back and says stop it. You're like
Well,
Pura.
I've never had a wife, so that hasn't been an issue.
No, but Pura told us the story. Like, they had an agreement that until that day, Calendra's legacy has to be finished, and he did it. He doesn't really know why, how, but he did it. And I really appreciate the commitment you have. And I think Mission X still holds up very well today. I think it's very mixed how people see it. But I think that's a thing of taste. But like from how it looks, and of course what I really like is that story inside with the yeah, well, let's the walkie-talkie thing you have,
Yeah.
which is like still today when you play it for the first time, it's like whoa, it's very immersive, and that's why I was asking like what was your part in it, because I think it's a very very immersive mission.
I'm gonna go
And
ahead and take credit for the walkie-talkie thing. That was like that was the genesis of the idea for the mission, and that came from playing Deus Ex.
yeah, of course.
I think
Ah,
I think Deus Ex was the first time I played a game where the story could change because someone tuned into your radio and told you something, and it would be this crazy plot twist or an interesting character moment or something like that. But yeah, Mission X was heavily inspired by Deus Ex.
But SKACKY and FIREMAGE, would you still say that Mission X is like something that could be done today, like from how it appears, if you don't know how old it is? And
Yeah, absolutely.
yes.
I wouldn't recommend it to newcomers because it's really tough. But if you want to impress someone, uh, give them Mission X. It's like just like Ragsburg 3 as well, which is just crazy. Both these missions date from approximately the same year, I think, and they both are still way ahead of their time. Just amazing in terms of scripting, scope, and architecture. It's just fantastic.
yeah, it's both 2008. Yeah,
Yeah, everything comes right in time. There are plot twists. The story is not the cliche is not linear. It's special and unique, and that's the power of Mission X. Its uniqueness. It's not the cliche of the Dark Mansion with Dark Secret we all played and replay in Thief. So that's
Yeah.
definitely a kind of mission not done enough and which can be done with Drone. Mission X is a classic. But yeah, like Seki said, I won't tell a newcomer to do it. The simple name of the different difficulty levels speak for themselves. Remember, expert has been renamed impossible. Normal
Right.
is expert.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
quite intimidating.
yeah. But I think as a Thief player, and you know that I'm more of a the how I say the intended play style with knocking everybody out. Um, this was a test for me, and when I finished it the first time, I was so proud of myself. And then I was like, I can do every mission until FIREMAGE came around with the Builder's Paradise. Um, that was
Thank
even
you.
harder. That is something, Dana. You need to see. The Builder's Paradise is very impressive work. Um,
Nice.
yeah, it's from the 20th anniversary contest, and it was second place, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, that's with the new Dark, the possibilities, and yeah, that was really, really impressive.
he still broke many of New Dark's limits.
Yeah.
I'm the king of breaking the limit, so you can test Kaki. I did it so many times. I'm still doing it.
Yeah, what he did is that you can go over the brush limit, which
Yeah,
is
that's
16k with New Dark, and he did it with objects. The thing is, when you go over that limit, you cannot portalize and optimize a mission anymore. So pretty much everything you put there is final.
Oh
yes.
no.
So everything I did was adding objects to decorate and finish the rooms just to make the mission finished. And the funny thing is, at the moment Drone has too much brushes, it starts being completely drunk. Like when you clone an object, you have duplets of IDs.
Oh no.
Completely crazy. But in game, it runs smoothly for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a really new PC, some would complain, I think. No, but it's amazing. But since we are talking about limitations, there was a question by Bazooka Bear to you, Dana. Do you have any advice for current, future Thief fan mission authors or teams in how to avoid or solve the problems that the COSAS team faced during development? If there could be a general advice, I don't know.
No, no, I don't. I have advice for the people who design Dramad.
Okay, tell us.
Well, well, here's the difference between Dramad and our tools. Like, okay, let me not talk about our tools. Let me talk about the tools that we use to make Dishonored. you build all the limits in, but you build them in as warnings. You don't build them in as hard limits because iteration is a complicated process. And if there's like a hard limit built into it, it can really just wreck the whole flow and energy behind iteration. It's like, yeah, sure, the final result is going to be dialed back, but sometimes you need like a second or third draft that is just wild and out of control to experiment on things. And if your limit means that it just crashes or it just locks up or there's a warning or it just won't build anymore, then you're dead in the water. We of course have 1,000 limits on what we can do in our games because we're trying to like we've got a target, a technology target that we're trying to hit. So sure, there's limits, but the limits are it famously now because of NoClip there was that little sign of like, hey, you're under 30 frames per second now.
I
And we
remember
have
that, yeah.
graphic at the bottom of the screen that people found hilarious. Like you do stuff like that to say, hey, designer, you're pushing over the limits. Eventually, you're going to need to dial this back. But while you're iterating, it's so important to be able to just go nuts and try whatever you want and just let your imagination run wild. So I really feel for the people working in Dark Engine with like you've hit the limit and the damn thing just crashes. But I wish I had advice for you all, but I've been working in a very different context since then. And
Really,
it's got to be tough.
Yeah.
yeah. The biggest, I think, the biggest limit back then was the Polygon Limit,
Yeah.
which was 1,024 in view. And actually
Yeah.
read something recently about Mission X that
Yeah.
you were designing, or someone else, I don't remember, the front entrance of the Ivory Rose, and then there is a widescreen patch that comes out, and
Oh
suddenly
yeah.
the polygon count goes over the limit.
Yeah, the widescreen patch. Oh god, I remember that.
But
What was that? Could you please explain that?
do you want to go ahead,
It-
Dana?
well, we had just razor sharp margins on all of that. We figured out how to get as much detail as we could without going over the limit. But then the widescreen patch happens, and then it all goes to hell. And we had to remove detail. We had to we had to simplify some things. One of the tricks that we had was that this is a polygon limit on the BSP, the binary space partition geometry. So it doesn't apply to meshes. So we changed a lot of stuff to meshes.
Yes, I know.
But then meshes don't
This-
have light maps. So we had to hand paint the light maps
Wow.
onto the meshes. This is actually where SlipTip helped us out, who then became he had been working on this this fairy tale project, Fables of the Penitent Thief, and after
Oh,
briefly
yes.
working with him on Mission X, I'm like, I want to work with you, dude. It's so fun to work with you. And of course, Fables is like the high point. I loved working on Mission X, but it was a tough project. Fables was just a joy to work on. So yeah, spoiler, I've already seen the questions. I know no one asked about Fables of the Penitent Thief, but we have to work it into this.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I absolutely
sure.
love
But
that project.
with Mission X, it's really funny because I actually opened the map today in the editor just to look around, and there's many things that are models, but you actually don't realize they're models when you play. Like you have distant scenery, like even the skybox is a model, like the distant
Yes.
art, and I don't know why. Why did you do that? It's so bizarre.
Polygons. It's all
Oh,
about polygons.
they do create polygons, like the
No,
distant art files.
I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood you.
In Thief 2, you can have distant art, which is like cityscapes and forests and whatever. It can be anything you want. And you do have a city in Mission X with mountains, and that actually is a model. When you move around, you can see it move just a bit.
Yeah.
And I was and when I saw that, when I was looking at the map a few years ago, I was like, what the hell? Why did they do that?
Just ambition. I don't know. I actually don't remember. I don't remember.
It was really surprising to me.
The surprising thing is,
Everyone who worked on Mission X brought their A game. It was incredible. Sorry, go ahead.
as I was just saying, the amazing thing is many of the architecture are actually objects, but the funny thing is when you're playing, you don't notice it. And it's pretty impressive. I want people to know that because most part of time, when you're putting objects as part of brushes, etc., in a drone, the light mapping is almost broken, hugely.
Yep.
And in Mission X, it's not the case. The light map is just perfectly smooth. That's very impressive. Very impressive.
We tweaked the lighting endlessly to make sure about that. And if we couldn't tweak the lighting, we tweaked the textures on the objects.
So yes, so everything was actually planned from the millimeter. Each millimeter was thinking in Mission X to get such amazing results. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So since we were talking about Fables of the Penitent Thief, as you just said, like I think the tone of Mission X, of course, is very serious, and as you said, like it was very
It was mostly serious. It was mostly serious.
Yes, of course, there
Still
were
had a lot
some
of
funny things in there, but
Yeah.
but then Fables of the Penitent Thief, I think, is a total change of tone in many aspects. So the idea for Fables was from Sliptip, right?
Yes.
And then you were like, "Oh, I want to join this project." Was that? Did I get that right? So,
Yes.
so how was that? Like, was it like a vacation in comparison?
Yes. Yes, it was. Like suddenly I'm not the director of the project.
First of all, yes.
suddenly I'm helping somebody else achieve their dream, and it was so relaxing, and it was just so fun and fulfilling. And like suddenly we were still doing something really off the beaten path, and like always trying to find weird solutions to things and fun things, but the pressure was just off. No pressure anymore.
I will say one thing about Fables. That rope monster still scares me. That is terrifying.
That's
Really?
that's Sliptip, right? Yeah, the rope monster is brilliant. I mean, it's a bug that he stumbled upon and was like, "Hey, this would make a cool monster." It's so scary.
But you know what I can imagine is like the tone of the whole thing, of course, is completely different. And when I read like in the briefing, I would say like, "Dear diary, boy, I'm in a pickle for sure. I was caught red-handed as the thief who nabbed the king's loot. Personally, I think my wife ratted me out." You know, like when you just read that, it seems like you must have had really fun at this project. But
Yeah.
do you remember who came up with the idea of taking that annoying music?
I think that was. I don't think that was me. I think that's Sliptip.
Of course, yeah. Um, no, because
music. I learned to love the music. I learned to enjoy it. And the way all the textures just move, that's all him.
Yeah, it's retro gaming. It's certainly one of the cutest fun mission of the whole community. Color, the music, it feels so innocent. I just love this mission.
Well, the humor is really fun as well. Like I will always remember playing the second mission where you're all small, and you stumble upon a webbed corpse that you can talk to, and he says, "I hate spiders."
yeah.
Oh, we had so much fun working on that.
But I think that's really strange. I think Fables of the Penitent Thief is well known among the people that were around when it was released.
Mm-hmm.
But I think strangely it didn't have that impact on a over the long time, which is interesting, I would say. So maybe that's why there aren't any questions about that.
Well, we need a resurgence of that because that is Like I consider that part of my like professional career. Like we made a game. Like
Yeah.
that wasn't even a mod or a fan mission. We made a game. So I consider that my first ship game, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's because it's really far removed from classic Thief that people tend to overlook it, which is a
Yeah.
distinct
That's a
mission.
shame. I'm surprised there haven't been more like just weird out there thief projects. Has there been?
Not really, but there are some, like FIREMAGE actually made a mission for, I think it was the 72 hours contest, half-assed wedding. Can you talk about that?
That's a mission which someone told me if I was under LSD when I built it. Because it's just a mission. When it was time to start a mission, I was just waking up in the morning and I had a weird dream, and I would just say, I have no idea for a mission. Well, let's create this dream you just made and make it true. So you have a complete mission nonsense with a rainbow warriors fighting, plotting to conquer the whole city, while Garage was just trying to find the ring for the wedding of his friend Basso. So you find yourself then in a world of rainbow in which you have true tribes who want you dead and with some sort of creatures and crits. When you think about it, just make nonsense.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah, it's especially impressive because it was made in 72 hours. I think it was 48 hours actually. I think, yeah.
But I think it's important to have sometimes those little special gems that try to change the tone. But what I remember is Fables of the Penitent Thief was one of the first thing that I discovered, because around that time I joined the forums. And I didn't know what to think of it. I was like, okay, on one hand, it's pretty amazing what they made out of this. But on the other hand, I was like, what happened to the thief community? Like, like, why are they making this cartoon game? Like, and everybody is excited about it. What happened? Did I miss something? But then I figured out.
Like 1,000 fan missions that had come out. Like, come on, let's change it up.
Yes, of course. But I was just joining the forums at around that time, and of course it's the first thing you see, and you're like, "Huh? I came here for a thief and not the penitent thief." But then I played it, and it was pretty amazing, to be honest. And then I figured that it's just like a little gem that sticks out. So people, if you didn't play it, do
Oh,
it.
yes.
It's a very impressive work, but turn down the volumes.
Oh yeah, turn on the music volume.
No, turn it up. I love
Yes.
it.
I still have it on my mind.
Yeah, it is a new worm. Yeah.
Maybe it's because it's one of the first fan mission I ever played. If you check quickly on TTLG, I joined TTLG 20 days after the release of Fable of the Penitent Thief. It was almost at the same time I joined Thief.
So, but the difference is that you came up and started working on Drum at FIREMAGE, and you created amazing stuff, like the centipedes or what it was. And I'm just here talking to people. But I want to go on with the next question from Amanil, because he or she asked, is there something that you miss about the Thief and its early community from late 90s, early 2000s? Maybe in comparison, I don't know, from the professional work. Maybe is there something you miss, or that you're happy that now that you're professional, I don't know, things are different, of course, but what's great or what's not so great?
I wouldn't say miss, but of course it's different. When you're doing it as your job, everything's different about it, even if it's the same work. I have to admit, I have to make a confession that there was a period a couple of years ago, I want to say 2019, when I started modding again. This is something a lot of people don't know about. I started to mod Skyrim because when you're working professionally, especially in a big studio, everyone's got their role. Everyone has their, you have your tasks. You have your like, this is your leadership you're responsible for. and you're working together in this big team effort, and it's incredibly complicated, and it's incredibly stressful, and it's incredibly like everything has to converge at this point. And I was really missing just being able to mess around. So I started to mod Skyrim, and I made a bunch of mods for Skyrim. I spent like maybe 2 years doing it. I redesigned the College of Winterhold. I redesigned several of the quests in the game. And it was so liberating. It recaptured all the stuff that really just doesn't exist anymore in my job, because like, okay, right now I need to I'm trying to design this quest line, and this quest line involves creating these different assets. These assets could be many different things. Maybe it's a piece of art, maybe it's a piece of animation, a piece of writing. And so you set up a meeting with that team, you discuss it, you define your needs in detail. But then I go start modding Skyrim, and I need something, and then I just do it. I just do it, and there's no one else involved. I can like, oh, I want to redesign this building. Well, let me spend a month learning how to use 3ds Max so I can do the change that I need, and I can do that on my time, in my schedule, in my leisure, and it was such a refreshing break.
So Thomas the Tank Engine by Dana Nightingale confirmed.
Well, sorry?
Thomas the Tank Engine, I think it's one of the famous mods.
Yes.
Um,
I think they actually
Yes,
added
they
it
did.
in
Yeah,
Elden Ring too.
Thomas the Tank is definitely an Elden Ring.
Yeah. No, but I can imagine that it's like suddenly it's like having like the experience like with no pressure, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
It's not just the experience with no pressure, it's being able to just learn a new skill. Like, oh, to solve this problem in the Skyrim mod, I have to learn some programming. Okay, I'll do that.
and you
Like,
can
the
benefit from
way
that,
I
right?
could just learn programming and do some programming in my day job. Like, we've got like one of the best programming teams in the world. It would be ridiculous for me to think that I could just learn programming and solve a problem myself. No, I would go into our documentation process. I would work out exactly what we need in specific detail. It would go over to the coding team, and that's how it would work. But now I'm modding Skyrim. Like, oh, let me learn this game's programming language so I can try to figure out how to do this thing that I want to do. And then if that takes however long it takes, there's no schedule, there's no deadline, and I just do it. And now I know a little bit of programming.
And it's still in the Bethesda environment, so
Yeah.
that's
Oh yeah.
Yeah, speaking of where you said you recreated some models, some buildings in Skyrim.
The College of Winterhold.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that one. But Esamir on YouTube asked, when did your interest in architecture begin? Where the first inkling sparked by imagery in a medium or analog structures or something less direct? Hi from MC Hammer. Maybe he said that because you might remember him under that name. I don't know.
I remember that name, yeah. Vaguely. Very vaguely.
It was a famous pop star, I think, in the 90s, but
I have been drawing like floor plans of things since I was a little kid. I was always just kind of interested in it. It was really more like of a level design side.
Hmm.
Like interested in the layout and the way everything's arranged, and just fascinated by how how do these rooms all fit together.
I can see the interest in Ultima Underworld.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand
Yeah,
that.
totally. But I had done like some like electives for some drafting classes, some I think there was a competition one year where you could like submit a floor plan for a house. I think I got like 8th place or something. Out of like 30 people, so that's not nothing. And also I did that totally off the cuff. I didn't even train for it. They're just like, oh, let me enter this. Oh, it's due in 3 days. Okay, let me just do it. Uh, so it was really just based on a fascination for just the way everything always fit together and the way that it's hard to explain.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
failing to let the idea gel. And another, honestly, it's just in a moment of pure, just raw honesty. There was a level of desperation in it too. It was like, how does a creative person survive in this fucking capitalist world where you have to just sell your skill for money? What can you possibly exist as or amount to? I guess I'll be a fucking architect. It's like you're either providing a service or
Yeah.
you're selling something or you're making something. And it was like, well, I can't be any of the
Yeah.
first two because I hate that stuff. I hate the idea of selling something. I need to make something. I don't have any skills in making anything. What do I make? Yeah.
You're kind of right.
Yeah, I have a very similar situation myself. Like, um, you're good at what you do, but doesn't make you any money, and then your parents are like, "Well, you could
Yeah.
look for a
Yeah.
job, you know."
How do you
Like,
turn
what
that
can I
Feel
do?
ya.
joy into profit? Anyway, fuck capitalism.
Yeah, fuck capitalism. Embrace. No.
I will name the episode that.
Embrace your
Yeah.
inner Garrett and
Be
just
gay,
do
be
it.
Yes.
fun.
Isn't Garrett a capitalist as well?
Well,
Eh,
he's doing a job and he's paid for the job, so yeah, it's capitalism. Yeah.
Aren't we all somehow?
Okay, let's go back to the questions.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, Garrett is the greatest guy on earth. We know that, but and he's just driven by honor and um, uh, heroism. Um, yeah, another question. Yeah, Cletremus, our good friend. I would
Yeah.
like to know which fan mission you enjoyed the most before you retired from Thief, and if you have played any missions since then.
I'm glad you asked. Eclipsed.
Oh yeah.
yes,
I
I was
love
sure you were
Strike.
gonna
I
say
am
that.
incredibly biased here because the author of that, Hitbreaker, Jeremy Catlin, is a good friend of mine. We went to university together, and he's a level designer at Arcane Austin.
Also.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
guys all ended up there. It's
Quite a few of us did, yes. Quite a
sure.
few.
Is there anyone else that you can just out of your head that was active in the community?
There's one more, but I don't think he wants me to say.
No, don't. But yeah, it's 4 people at
You can.
least.
What was that, Skekky? I can.
I said you can.
No, I think that
Yes.
who that is should make the announcement themselves.
Okay. Well, in that case, hi. I also work on Arcane Leo.
I try to act surprised.
Welcome.
Oh, really?
You guessed it.
No, you didn't say. But when you told me that you know Dana, then I was like, I made, and someone, Brethren, told me days before that you tried to find a job in the games industry, and then I made my Sherlock. Oh, wait. But it's really nice that you announced it here. That honors
The
us.
news goes far.
Yeah, but I knew that Dana was going to say it about Eclipse because we actually had a conversation, the both of us,
Yeah.
with Dinga, the studio director, about Thief and fan missions, and we both
So
gushed
did you
about
two
Eclipse.
now really work together, like at the same place?
Yep.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yes.
Just getting a beer the other night.
Yep.
So in 10 years, Skekky, we will have like almost the same discussion with you. I will save the questions.
Maybe.
But just change the mission names or whatever. That's really amazing. Wow. So yeah, congratulations on that, Skeggy.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, the world is small.
Congrats again, Pearl.
Oh, it is absolutely.
But
Thank you.
just to sing the praises of Hitbreaker a bit more, it was, first of all, it was a huge surprise to learn that another Thief modder was. I say Thief modder now because I've adopted the modern parlance. Of course, FM author is how we say it. At the same university as me, and like he showed me this thing he was working on, and it was eclipsed, and my mind was just like, "This is
Was that
so
island
fucking
mission, right?
cool." Sorry.
Was it that mission with with all the dead and yeah, I know.
It was the mission that was fully empty until
Suspense.
you did a certain thing, and then it got really fucking scary.
But when you enter the first building and turn on the
Yes.
light, then there's a creature running away. I remember that.
Yes.
And yeah, and that was one of the few horror missions I actually finished because it was really getting me. Amazing! Wow, what a war podcast today.
But yeah, Jeremy joined Arcane Austin. He was level designer on Prey. He designed I don't remember everything that he designed, but I know he was the principal designer of the guts. If you're familiar with Prey, you probably are familiar with
Yes.
the level of the guts. So that just a shout out to my friend Jeremy there.
So I hope he listens.
I'll send him a link to this.
I think besides, behind Dishonored, Prey is my favorite Arcane. I really loved that. That it was full of so many great ideas.
Yeah, I loved being able to play an Arcane game that I didn't work on.
I can imagine because it's like, okay, you didn't work on it, so you don't know what to expect. Really, I don't know. Maybe you have some insights sometimes here and there. I don't know, but yeah, that was a fresh game. And the premise was amazing at the beginning. It was like, whoa, mind blown.
Yeah, Prey was super cool.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's the first game where you're afraid of cups.
Afraid of duplicates.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's too many of this thing in this room. One of them is going to try to kill me.
Yeah, it's like, oh, 2 cups together? That sounds...
There's 4 desks and 5 chairs. Fuck!
I know also they just mess with you psychologically. It's like, oh man, there's something off about this room and it's just completely fine.
Was it a toilet roll that just rolls over the floor and you're like, what? No, there's something. Yeah, amazing. But yeah, I think all the immersive sims done by Arcane are very impressive. And I'm very happy that this studio is around because otherwise the market would be, have a fewer.
You know, among the, I can't talk about like the whole industry, but just among the folks I've talked to, I think the Thief mission that gets talked about the most among pro developers is the sword. That is
Oh yes.
by far the mission that developers talk about. Yeah.
It's just crazy.
So like, of course, like, you know, I'm working on Dishonored, so Thief is always a reference. So we might reference, of course, we did our own bank job in Death of the Outsider, and casing and masks might come up, and you know, Assassins is a classic. The Thieves Guild in Thief Gold is a classic, but the sword, that's the mission. That's always on the tongue of someone like a AAA dev when we're talking about Thief. They always talk about the sword.
There is a good reason to do because it's a maze mission, but using verticality. It's rare to have a maze using full 3D direction.
Mm-hmm.
Most important, in a maze, you go left, right, or forward. In the sword, you have also up and down. That's insane.
And you have those mind fucks as well.
Exactly.
When you look at like top 20 levels of all time, it's almost among them every time today.
That
Yes,
and Life of
life
a
of a
Party.
party.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, of course. I forgot Life of the Party. That
No,
also comes up.
but I meant in general, like games in general, like people. There's a list of best levels of all time in any video game, and The Sword is,
Oh yeah.
mostly among them.
Mhm.
I think it's a huge inspiration because back in the days, I think that was a really unique experience. I think it lost a bit over time, but just when you played fan missions. But yeah, this was actually some, and of course the outcome of the mission, like in story wise, that was also something where, because that why it stuck to your mind, I would say,
Mhm.
that he actually sent you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the plot twist is amazing. The great thing with Thief's story is that it's not really complicated. It's just a classic noir story, but the way it's told is
I
just so
think this map
effective.
also came at just the right time in the level of detail that existed in video games, because honestly, it's so just chunky. It's so boxy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is rough.
It requires so much imagination to just like extrapolate what it is you're seeing. Like, oh, I'm in a tree. It doesn't look anything like a tree, but I get that it's a tree because I see this, that, and the other. And I kind of wonder that if it was more literal, if it was just, if like what's the 22 version of that? Would it be as compelling because it would be so just literal? How much
Well,
of people's adoration comes from their own just ejecting their imagination into what they're seeing.
Well, it's exactly why I love Ultima Underworld, just like you. It's the game's so low res, you cannot see anything, so you're like, you can just imagine what is creeping just at the edge of the darkness, and the environments are blocky but detailed just enough that you can make it in your mind.
So you wanted to go on with the White Shark question, right?
Yeah, I was
Um,
kind of obliquely addressing one of the topics Waicha answered there, but in the way I wanted to talk about it. But yes, let's get back to the questions.
no. So she asked, like, after years of experience with the game design and how it evolved through the years, what will you change in one of original missions, and what would be reasoning behind it? It will be satisfied even with something nitpicky or for pure aesthetic reasons.
Um, Oh gosh, critiquing the original. I should have been more prepared for this question. Um.
Like, for example, may I jump in with an example, and maybe like the first game should have had like a better introduction to the real thief mechanics, actually, like with the stealing and stuff, I would say.
That's not where my head was going. I was thinking of the first thing that came to mind was casing and masks, where I feel like what was done in the game didn't
Yep.
quite work. It's such a big
yeah.
map, and you're supposed, like, ostensibly encasing, you're in the map so that you can plan ahead. You can understand the layout. You can know where the secret passages are. You can develop a strategy that is useful to you when you revisit the map later in masks. And don't really feel like I don't really feel like it worked. The map is so big, it's impossible to keep in your head. It's impossible to really build any familiarity with it. And
And
it's a tough one.
the
I feel like that needed a little bit more iteration to actually work. Like, I love
and
the
if you
idea.
remember correctly,
Hmm?
sorry, if you remember correctly, in Casino Join, the only loot you can find also are just lost coins.
Yes.
There's no other loot.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's only
I did.
coins. Yeah, absolutely. So the map looks samey. There's nobody, and you
Yeah.
only loot coins.
Yes.
But yeah, casing is an interesting choice. Um, there's that mission in the first game, Undercover, where you
Oh
play the
yeah.
part of a novice. And honestly, I think that they actually had a plan for that with Thief 2 Gold, which never got made, about infiltrating a college. And I think that would actually have worked really well with casing. Like if you were playing the part of a noble, or maybe
Yes,
like a servant, and you just
it's true.
went around the
Casing would have
mansion,
worked better if you
and
weren't
then
sneaking around.
That's actually what we. I don't know. We talked about Thief 1 or 2. We had that on the podcast, and we said exactly the same thing. It would have been more amazing if you had like the opportunity to go undercover and move among the normal
Yeah.
people there.
You're like
Yeah,
dressed up as a worker or something, and
and experience
Yeah.
the same
Yes.
map from a totally different perspective. I think that would have benefited from that. Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah. So I guess that's my pick for what would I fix from Thief 1 and 2 would be casing and masks.
which is also pretty interesting because I just made the connection between that and Mission X. When you arrive, you have your
Oh,
noble
yes.
clothes,
Yeah.
and then so you can just explore a bit, and then you get the mask and your equipment. It's okay. I'm gonna be sneaky now.
Good observation there. So things are connected here and there. But can I ask, what is your favorite? Or I think. Oh wait, Random Taffer I think asked that. Was it he? Do you have a favorite fan mission? And can I add, let me add the question to you? And what is your favorite original mission as well?
We talked about what was the last mission that blew my mind before I left, which was
Oh, it's
Eclipse.
Eclipsed, yeah.
Eclipse.
Like just as a player, of course I worked with Slip Tip, but his work before I worked with him was always blowing my mind. And let's not forget Mocus, Marcus Lapalander. I'm sorry, Marcus, I butchered your name. And I actually got to meet Marcus in person. He's at Remedy.
Oh,
Yep.
After all these years, I went up to Remedy for a visit, and I met him, and just the loveliest person. Like way back when, modding for Thief 1, not even Thief Gold, is Thief 1. Marcus was already doing fantastic work, and of course, he was like one of the number one
he
people I
made the,
wanted on the COSAS team, and he's just the nicest person.
Yeah, for those who may not be familiar with Mokis, he made the Circle of
Yeah,
Strain
thank you for
maps
that. I
for
forgot the
Thief
name.
1. And no problem. And I think he actually made the architecture in Gathering at Wien, right?
Yes, he did the architecture for Gathering in the End.
and your favorite original mission?
Tough one. That's a tough one. I really like Assassins.
Okay. I think I don't know. The first part was cool, but
That was the first time you really got to experience the city as a location. I was less
Exactly,
interested in Mirez's castle as I was in the streets part. And
of course, how it started was amazing. Like with that arrow through the window,
Yeah.
and they were like, "What?"
dramatic. What else did I love from Thief 1? Haunted Cathedral, of course. Like everyone says Haunted Cathedral, so that's not a big deal.
Or maybe from Thief 2. I don't know.
Do you like Song of the Caverns?
Sorry?
Do you
Song of
like
the-
Songs of the Caverns?
Please remind me what that is. It's been a long time.
It's one of the Thief
Yes.
Gold missions. It's the one in
There
Oh,
are
that was
pearls
very
with
interesting.
Raoul.
I
Lady
got
Dolores.
I got lost in that. That was a very interesting. I can't say I really liked it. Which I feel bad for saying. Like I worked
You make me
with
sad.
Terry on the Dishonored game. She was one of our writers. And I'm really struggling to remember actually the mission. It's been a long time. I'm old.
To be quite fair, I remember an interview with a few people from Looking Glass, and Song of the Caverns was actually Terry's first ever level.
Oh yeah, I
She
know.
never touched
That's
an
why I
editor
felt
before.
bad for not being able to gush about it, because
And to me, which is
no, this is just a
go ahead, sorry.
person that I very much admire.
Yeah, because to me that is a very impressive level, especially a first
Yeah.
level. It's actually my favorite in the whole
But
franchise, believe it or not. Like flaws and all, I love it.
I mean, just in terms of a role model, just like as a woman in game development, Terry Brosius is an important person to me.
Yeah, and also yeah, and same with actually Sarah Virilli, who was a designer on the sword. She was
Oh
a principal
yes,
designer.
of course. Well, the difference is that I've met Terry in person and we worked together on Dishonored. And I've never actually gotten a chance to spoke with Sarah Varelli. I would love to. If you're listening to this, please say hi. But yeah.
Let's go on with Whiteshire because let's go back to Kosas a bit. Have you thought in the last few years about the story of Kosas after having to move out from the project, or the story and the characters is closed chapter in your life?
This is actually kind of a big one because there's a huge personal secret with these characters. I mean, if you remember, if you remember Digital Nightfall, the person, you of course know that I'm transgender. And Kosas began as a story that was like done as kind of role play over email called Correspondence of Thieves. And I played the character. God, what the fuck was his name? Nightfall or something. I changed his name in the rewrite because his name was so ridiculous in the original. But yes, so there's this character, Master Nightfall or whatever, and of course, most of the folks involved in the Correspondence of Thieves were like they were playing a character, and the character was like every character you play in a role-playing game, there's some element of yourself in it, and there's some element of fantasy in it. It's a mixture of that, and I can't speak to what it was for the other folks, but this Nightfall character, who was of course a character in the Kosas missions, was really who I felt like everyone expected me to be. Who I felt like this is the character everyone is expecting me to play. But Sheem was my chance to actually be myself. And as the years went on, as like the story continued, Nightfall kind of faded into the background, and Sheem grew in prominence. So like it's quite meaningful that in Mission X, Nightfall isn't in it at all. It's only Sheem. Because Sheem was me trying to express myself as a woman. And I didn't even really understand what I was doing. It was more instinctive at that point. And I could do it like secretly. Like no one knew what I was doing. It was this very covert operation that I was involved in. But it was really important to me. And I didn't even really understand why at the time. It would still be many years before I even understood like that I was transgender. I just knew that this is the character that was represented who I really believed that I was, in contrast to this Nightfall character which is the character that I felt like everyone expected me to be. So, of course, like, I'll never forget this character. This was like foundational in me figuring out my identity.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that way, I never stopped thinking about that. As far as like the story of the campaign goes, honestly, I don't even remember. There have been so many different iterations on the plot of COSAS. I don't know, but the key part that that will stick with me is this this duality between these two characters and me kind of figuring myself out through this character of Sheem.
Thanks for sharing this, very personal meaning to that.
Indeed.
Yeah, means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad I could get that out without crying too much.
Yeah, I'm a bit overwhelmed at the moment, but it's appreciated, and I'm very happy to hear that over something like that maybe seems so simple, but has such a important meaning. Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Waicha, for asking that.
Yeah, I can only agree with what Supreme said. That is really nice to hear.
As soon as I saw that question, I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to talk about this. And like, yeah, actually, yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about this. This is something that I've been, it's been I've mentioned it to close friends over the years of like, my journey of of figuring out my gender, and this was one of the early signs to myself of like, why am I so interested in being this character? Why can't I, like, why is this so important to me? And just not understanding. And then over the years growing and understanding and figuring out.
And I think this goes. I think that is the comparison I could feel like when you were talking about like going after what you want to do and want to be. I see the similarities there.
Got it. That's exactly what I was referencing.
Yeah, I was thinking of that back when you talked about it. But
Yeah.
now I know why you wanted to go on with the White question. I got that when I heard your answer to that. I was like, okay, now I see why it was so important to you. So yeah, amazing. So I don't. Sorry. Can we go on with the questions? It's a very
Yeah.
new situation for me. Yeah. It's an emotional part of an episode, which is cool. I like that. I try to. Let's go on with her last question, since Wacha made that amazing question. The Mission X, of course, is a huge and exhausting project. But if you had the chance to sit down on the mission and have all the resources needed to work on it, what would you change? Would you redo the whole mission from scratch or just add little changes?
My professional life has told me that the things you need to do to change or fix your work are not the things you think you need to do. You need to bring in user research specialists. You need to bring in user experience designers. You need to bring in accessibility experts. You need to sit down. You need to like have people play the game. You need to listen to what they say and not get all egotistical and arrogant and butthurt about it. Like I used to get a lot back in the old days when people are like, I don't like this. I'm like, you just don't understand it. No, sit down, listen to them. Listen to them. They are the people that you're trying to build something for. I can't I can't pinpoint anything about Mission X that I would change, except that my whole approach to feedback after 12 years working professionally is just profoundly different. And my whole approach to just wanting to make something that anyone can enjoy is very different. I would not make a Mission X that was like expert, super difficult, impossible. Now, I would make something that you didn't have to be super skilled at the game to be able to enjoy. I would make, a story mode where there was no stealth at all. I would do. I would be much more generous with the difficulty.
But I think like such a hardcore community, I think they mostly like when it's more expert, and not so casual.
Yeah,
So
no, you offer everything that you can. You give that super hard mode for the people that want the super hard mode. You just try to find a way to offer the options that suits everybody.
And just to bounce back on that, Thief also has 3 difficulty modes, so you can really tailor the experience to
listen,
any given player,
FIREMAGE,
really.
Builder's Paradise. No, really,
My back also.
for the research for the episode where we interviewed you, I had to look a walkthrough to see the end. It was really difficult on normal.
I mean, I love hard games. I'm a FromSoft fan, so.
Well,
But that's very interesting. What kind of games do you play in your private life?
Oh gosh, let me bring up my my recent played list. Let me see what I have on here.
So of course Skyrim, huh? Obvious.
I loved modding Skyrim, and I loved everything. I feel like the power of Skyrim is as a platform. Skyrim is it like what it's offering isn't as much like what it is it's offering what it could be.
Yep.
That's what I loved about Skyrim. It has so much interesting things in it. And those interesting things like capture the imagination and like drive you to say like, "Oh, I like this. I think this cool. I'm going to open the creation kit and make more of that." And that's what I loved about Skyrim.
And I think
But
it's really good that it hasn't such a good story. Actually, that's not important. So you can just do what you want and install what you want, and yeah, I agree.
yeah.
the
Oh
freedom
my
of
God.
creation.
Yeah, my impression of the story from Skyrim is radically different as an adult from when it was first released when I was like actually I was an adult then too. What am I kidding? But anyway, just quickly glancing at my recent plays. Oh yeah, I talked about this on the Level Design podcast. There's this wild game called Infra, which is basically like, what if Half-Life 2 had no enemies and had mist puzzles in it? It's this wild, fascinating game. It's incredibly rough around the edges, which, like, honestly is kind of cool. How often do you see that? But yeah, it's basically a first-person puzzler, but it's like 40 hours long. It's Source Engine. It's really cool. I played the Room games a long time ago, but I recently bought them on Steam, so they're in the list. Outer Wilds, one of the best games like in my life.
I'm pretty sure you enjoyed the Telos principle.
Oh yeah, Talos Principle is fantastic. Like just
Very
as a
good puzzle game.
pure puzzler. I like the story too, but the power of the Talos Principle was in the puzzles.
Yes.
Outer Wilds was that with the planets, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Outer Wilds does more to combine puzzles with world, with atmosphere, with environment, with narrative, with character. Outer Wilds is more the complete package. What wonderful game.
Very interesting experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I
have to
played
agree.
Unpacking. I found Unpacking to be a
I
surprising
love it.
emotional roller coaster.
I love it. Yeah, I can totally relate.
Psychonauts 2, fantastic. Hi, Tim Schafer. And team, I'm sorry. Like, I know one person isn't the entire production. I do the same stupid thing that a lot of people do. Hello, Double Fine. I'm sorry. What else do I have on my list? God, I still need to play Tell Me Why. It's sitting here on my list. I need to play it.
Can we please go back to unpacking, because I think it deserves a way bigger spotlight.
Oh yeah, sure. They just won. They won big at the GDC Awards.
Yeah,
Totally observed. What a
it's
fantastic game.
such a simple idea. So I don't know. Maybe can I explain? It's just a game where you see, like, it's pixel art, and every level is just a room or some rooms, and you have to unpack your stuff from the boxes, like you just moved in, and it tells, like, it doesn't tell you on here it points at with a finger. It just tells you, the environment tells you, the person is now at this stage of life, and this
Yes.
might have happened, and you can do the interpretation of, oh, now, yeah, and I don't want to spoil it.
Anyone who has any interest in environmental storytelling needs to play Unpacking. This game is environmental storytelling. That's the whole game.
It's also on Game Pass, so if you have that, you don't need to pay for it on Steam. Yeah, it was such a great game. Yeah.
Oh, I need to play the sequel to Far. That's on Game Pass now, right? Far 2?
Oh, I don't
Lone Sail? I don't. Yeah, the
yeah,
original was
yeah.
Far Lone Sail. The Far Changing Tides just released. Yeah, that's
Yep.
on Game Pass. I need to play that. I love the original game.
It was with that ship, right? It was from where you just ran from left to right, or?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And you had
Very
to
atmospheric,
with the
very just
engine. Yeah.
moody. Yeah, wonderful game.
Yeah, that was a great experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tunic. But I didn't.
Oh, I
It's
haven't
your.
played Tunic yet. Tunic looks wonderful.
It's hard as hell, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, right now I'm like 110 hours into Elden Ring.
Wow,
And
you have
I'm
more
only
than me.
maybe 2/3 into the game.
How do you
Wow.
tell how far you are in the game? Because I'm like, okay, I have 60 hours and I don't know where I am.
I'm just looking at how much of the map is
It's really difficult.
left to be explored.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that I did anything there,
Yeah. And that can be a trick as well.
Well, I can't talk about Elden Ring because I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, it's just it's an amazing experience. I think it's the Dark Souls for people that are not good in Dark Souls like me. It's like,
Yes, absolutely.
Looking back at my recently played list, I've got Kentucky Route Zero, which is this fascinating, purely narrative experience. I highly recommend it for people who love narrative games. It kind of like flips the script because your choices aren't how you're reacting to the story. Your choices are what define the story. So like you have a dialogue option and you choose the thing. You're choosing what you want the story to be. You're not just choosing how your character's reacting to the story. It's a very interesting game. And of course,
also
sorry?
on Game Pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, now we're an Xbox ad. Hello, Tim. No, sorry. Phil. His name is Phil. Hi, Phil.
But I think it's
Phil.
important to point that out, because if people have that, it's like important to say, hey, it's on Game Pass because you're paying for that, so don't buy it on Steam, because you can already access it. Yeah.
My God, Disco Elysium.
I still haven't played that one. There's many games that you quoted,
Disco
but I haven't
Elysium
played yet.
is so good. It's so good.
Everybody says that who played it.
It's so good.
But it's full of a lot of dialogue, right?
Yes, it's a lot of reading. Well, now it's fully voiced, so it's a lot of listening. But
yeah,
when I played
it was a
a lot
patch,
of
right?
reading. Yeah, they
Yeah.
updated. I played the original version, so I haven't heard the fully voiced. I like the Nier games. Nier Automata is fantastic. Sayonara Wild Hearts. This is a really tiny game, but it's just this. It's like it's a trip. It's pure raw emotional power. Sayonara Wild Hearts. Anyway, I'm just scrolling down through my recently played on Steam. I'm getting back into like 2020 here because I'm skipping a lot.
But what I can see, you like games with an emotional touch, and I think that's what something that what I love today. Like you have those indie games a lot that do that, and I love it. There are so many great experiences that, yeah,
Yeah.
Firewatch was such an amazing. Or does
Yes.
anybody know Carrion, where you play this
Ah,
One-
yeah.
monster thing?
Oh,
I haven't
love
actually
the
played
thing.
it.
That's amazing.
It looks amazing, but I am so against killing innocent people that I cannot.
Sadly,
I cannot play that game.
this monster doesn't have a blackjack, but I
You are
love
the bad guy.
it's an amazing experience to play the bad guy. Or the question is,
No,
are
I
you
mean,
really the
you
bad guy?
played Hotline Miami, so you already know what it is to play the bad guy.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Also a
Uh,
great game.
May I slide in one question because it's from Seth and he's one of our regulars from the podcast in general, so I don't want to overlook that. He is definitely wondering how you see Thief's influence being carried out into the future games. How is the Thief community you created still interacting with the game dev today, and how do you see it continuing to do so? Blah. What a long sentence.
I'm sorry, could you ask that again?
How do you see Thief's influence being carried into future games? Or yeah.
Well, Thief is like one of the big four, and to me, Thief is like the big one. But other people have other opinions. Like when people talk about this genre, they talk about Thief, Metal Gear, Hitman, and Splinter Cell. And to me personally, Thief is the one that's doing the thing that I want to see. But realistically, I'm the minority in that group. Most people are looking to Hitman, they're looking to Metal Gear, some of them are looking to Splinter Cell. It's becoming rarer and rarer to hear a developer using Thief as a reference, and I think that's a shame.
But
I still hold very like Thief is still big in my heart, but Thief, yes, sorry.
I can't. I can't shut up about it. So
I know.
we'll keep each other
Well,
company.
wait, when you joined, I was joking that like, aha, finally I have an ally in the big, Metal Gear versus Hitman versus Thief debate.
Yeah, I actually shocked some other devs at Arcane when I said that I don't really like.
Oh,
Hitman.
that is a massive hot take of mine that I'm not. Everyone assumes that I love Hitman, and yeah, I've played most of the Hitman games, and they bring a lot of interesting game design ideas, brilliant games, fantastic work by the team, but it doesn't really resonate with me. It doesn't really click into my like where my heart goes, where my mind goes, the way that Thief does.
Cool.
And it's the same with Metal Gear, which
I
has
find
done fantastic stuff, and they're brilliant games. But when I think about what I want from an immersive, stealthy, mysterious, dangerous experience, I go back to Thief. But
Maybe
Mhm.
maybe it's a
Yes.
universe too, which could eventually block thing because, well, Metal Gears and Hitman have both interesting gameplay and choice of narrative, but indeed the universe is still modern world, and Thief is more dark fantasy, and dark fantasy is more appealing to me, but for example, than modern warfare and world, etc. So maybe it's a question of setting and universe, maybe which doesn't makes him that appealing to us, perhaps.
Yeah.
I may I jump in here because
Yeah, totally.
I think the way how I read the question is the influence of Thief. for future games, or let's say even past games. I would say that Thief has the biggest influence because if you look at games like shooter games, for example, they now have like almost every game has now a stealth sequence in it, at least. Or you have, or like in Wolfenstein, you have like the opportunity to stealth through the game. So,
Yeah,
and I
but
think that
I would
is
argue
the.
that those games are influenced more by Metal Gear and Splinter Cell and Hitman and
But the
Thief.
first person thing is my argument here,
Yeah.
because Thief did it first. And
Mhm.
maybe for the newer designers, Thief is not the inspiration in their mind, but I think Thief is the general inspiration that evolved over time or that kept, that stuck to games, in my opinion. And then from what you said in comparison, I think which we worked out before, that you like emotional games or games that get to
Yeah.
your emotions. And of course, Thief is way more getting to emotions than Metal Gear and Hitman, because Hitman is, in my opinion, it's an
Pretty
interesting
emotional.
playground, but it's so gamified.
Yeah.
It's just a
Yes.
gamification of what Hitman
Hitman is
was,
very stoic.
and
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that's my main problem with Hitman games post Blood Money is that they're more like puzzle games, really,
but stealth in
and I'm
general
not
is a
really
puzzle
into
game, I
puzzle
would say.
games. So,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I know, yeah, but like the methods to eliminate certain people, like you have to go through specific steps that you have to figure out yourself, which is fine. But the way it's presented to me is just rubs me the wrong way. I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah, it's not
I never
immersive, I
really
would
got
say. You
into
you
them.
know you can finish a mission by just throwing rubber ducks at people's necks, you know. But I think it's fun, But when you can just, okay, now I'm open for Hitman, and oh, it's on Game Pass, um, and then you play it, and it's like, okay, now I have this experience. It's not a Thief, it's not emotional, but it's an interesting playground to play around with. And Metal Gear also doesn't have a very emotional stuff. It's also just more a gamification. Just think of uh, the how do you say that, the explanation mark, over the head. Of course, it's gamified. Thief doesn't have that. So, but I would still say that the influence overall from Thief is still more seeable than from those two games, from the others, in my opinion.
They all have their difference and different approach, and that's the thing which makes them all interesting, in my opinion. There are things I like in Hitman, other I like in Metal Gear, other I like in Thief. They are all stealth games, but they're all completely different in their approach. And the funny part with all these games is it could be so fun to have a game which tried to pick the good ideas from each of the game and then gather them in one big game. You know, um, having the routine mechanics like we can see in Hitman, like every NPCs has something to do and they repeat their action. This is something very interesting. If you had that plus the voyeur aspect of Thief, you are exploring freely with full freedom everywhere in the map. You can spy people, check the map, find the loot, etc. And if you could have the gadget like in Metal Gear, all of this combined could really create a very interesting game. They all have their cons and pros. You see?
If I may, that's an advice I try to give to level designers, and that comes from the feeling of playing Thief, is to always give the player the opportunity to feel like they're where they don't belong.
Yes.
Don't just give them doors and corridors and rooms. Let them go onto rooftops. Let them go into crawl spaces. Let them go into the gaps between the walls. Let them get it, like, put locked doors where you never unlock them, but can get around the door behind because you found a secret way. Let the player feel like an intruder. That's the moments where you feel the tension, where you feel like you're you're not the villain, because of course you're the hero of your own story, but you're doing crime. That's what
Yes.
feels exciting. And if you just design a map where the player is walking down hallways, unlocking doors, going through rooms, it's not as exciting as if the player was breaking the rules. Let the player break the rules. There's a pipe here which leads to this space below the floor, and you can go here, and then there's this crack, and then you crawl there, and then you go on the eaves, and then you're walking over the tiles of the roof, and that's the shit. That's the cool stuff. That's what makes you feel like an intruder. That's the heart and soul of the stealth genre. Is I'm somewhere where I don't belong, and I'm doing it on purpose, and I'm gaining an advantage over these assholes.
And the way to spice it up is more about plus you are trespassing, but also people are not aware you're trespassing. Like seeing the god and other NPCs doing their live, having a chip chat, if they were doing their regular days. This really adds a lot into the immersion and the feeling. These people are just doing their job, and you are the troublemaker in the story.
And what I don't know where it was, in another podcast where they analyzed Thief, was a German one, and they said what Thief gives you, and I never thought about that, but what they maybe had in mind when they designed it, you have knowledge, and it shows that knowledge is power.
Yeah,
you have
that's one of the pillars of Deathloop.
Yes.
Oh yeah, what an amazing
absolutely.
game I heard.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to.
You haven't played it yet.
No, yeah, it's on Epic. I think is it on PC? Yeah,
we just released it on Epic. I think it's half off right now.
but it's not on Steam.
Yep.
Is?
Yeah.
No, it is.
Is it on
We
Steam?
released it on Steam
yes.
day one.
What?
Since day one, it's on Steam.
It's not on Game Pass. That's the problem. I see.
No,
I didn't read, but it's on Steam, really? Why didn't I see that?
Yep.
It's $29.99 on Epic Store right now.
Okay, I think I got a misinformation there. That's fine. So I will get into it. I'm prepared for maybe another episode with you, Dana. I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah. One thing.
Yes.
Muerte Gris asked, favorite Thief game? I think we stick to the first three, but maybe you can put them in order, because I think among Thief fans it's very important who likes Thief 1 and 2 and 3 best.
I'm going to make some enemies with this comment. I prefer Thief, the Dark Project, over Thief Gold.
Most people will love you.
Yes,
me too.
The Dark Project.
I think that Thief Gold introduced some really cool new maps, but I don't. Thief Gold's maps are in the style of Thief 2, and Thief 2 has a very different style from Thief 1.
The better one, I would say, but
it looks less grimy and less archaic. I think it's intended, of course, but well, there is also the choice of colors. Golds and servants in Thief Gold are very colorful.
I'm not talking about aesthetic. I mean in the level design. Thief 1's maps were open, but there was still a spine to them. There was still a sense of a critical path, of a route from A to B. Thief 2's maps were much more open. They were much more ambiguous. They were much more like, you can go anywhere and get completely lost and just waste your time. And Thief 2's maps were tough. Thief 2's maps required a lot more critical thinking about where you were going and what you were doing. And I think that's great. Thief Gold's 3 new maps were done in the style of Thief 2. But when you're playing Thief 1, the maps are a lot smaller. They're a lot more streamlined. They're much more, here's your critical path, and here's this interesting other stuff on the side if you choose to explore it. And I feel like it disrupts the experience. And
That's interesting. I never thought about this personally. Like I personally wouldn't say that the guild is in the style of Thief 2, but some of the characters
I don't know
definitely
what
is.
Thief games you played, but I have totally different look of at that.
I mean, to be clear, this is memories from like many. This is like 10-year-old memories.
No, I'm just kidding. But I think it's very interesting what you say, because for me, I get lost in Thief 1 missions because, in my opinion, they are not as easy to read as the Thief 2 missions.
Okay, I found Thief 2's missions to be very labyrinthine. And the gold missions were much more of that kin. I would have, it's hard to say. It's very hard to say. But if I was going to replay one of the Thief games, I would play the Dark Project pre-Thief Gold.
Yeah, and most people on the among the community will agree with you, I think, because but I always like that discussion on the podcast because it's always coming up, and then it's like, no, it's like that, no, it's no. And yeah, that's really interesting.
Like, no disrespect for the level designers of Thief Gold. I think those maps are fantastic, but it just in terms of style, design, tone, content, they feel more Thief 2.
Yep, and I think the what we were just talking about earlier, the theater thing, the mission, it was actually meant to be for Thief 2, from what I know. But then they made it for Thief Gold. Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, it is very like a
Yeah.
proto bank in a way.
Well, when I designed my bank mission, I watched a replay of First Bank and Trust of Thief 2. I didn't actually play it because
Yeah.
Thief is hard.
Well, I mean, I love the bank, but it makes sense.
My
Yes.
main takeaway was that I wanted an experience that was a lot more focused, where the player always knew what they were, always knew what their goal was. I still wanted to create this expansive, non-linear space with a lot of possibilities. I'm talking about the bank job for Death of the Outsider. And I'm not supposed to talk about my arcane work on this podcast, but as it relates to my work, my love of Thief, the bank, of course, the bank job of Thief 2 was a big inspiration of that. And I even snuck in the most subtle of subtle Easter eggs into that, where God, what was that fucking Easter egg? Right. The oh my God, I'm gonna get this wrong. It's been a while. I'm sorry. The lockbox you're trying to get into in the First Bank and Trust is lockbox 11, right? Yeah.
In Thief 2? Oh, I think so. Maybe. Let me just check that.
I believe it was lockbox 11. This was a very tricky Easter egg to pull off, because what we had decided was that there was going to be a special sequence that you had to put into like 6 safes to get the special result. And I decided on the Fibonacci sequence because that starts with 011. And I believe the lockbox in Thief 2 was lockbox 11. So that let me use that reference, and when you open that, that's Kieran Jindosh's safe, and we put a mechanist hammer inside Jindosh's safe.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I remember that.
It was like this, the most subtle of subtle Easter eggs, but I thought it was fun.
But I'm gonna look in on YouTube because I don't remember. I'm hesitating between 11
Maybe
and
it was
14.
maybe it was 14. I know that I figured out where in the Fibonacci sequence I could put it to align with the lockbox number from Thief 2, and then we put Thief 2 Easter eggs in Kieran Jindosh's lockbox, and it was the mechanist hammer.
Amazing.
Just this goofy Easter egg crap. Yeah.
No, you were correct. It is
Okay.
indeed
Thank
the
you.
safe box 11.
And of course, I quoted the Thief the Dark Project tutorial in Dowd Space in the Flooded District. Stay in the shadows, avoid the light.
Oh, yes.
You must learn to move unseen.
Just wanted to
That
ask
was
that
all me.
question.
Yeah.
I created
When
that.
I just wanted to ask, actually, how did that happen?
Harvey Smith looked at it. He thought it was fun. He tweaked the writing a little bit. He didn't want it to be a word-for-word recreation, but an homage. And we made it. It shipped. We went to the animators. It went to the one of the writers on Dishonored. We didn't have Terry working with us on Dishonored. We had Austin Grossman, who was also a writer from Looking Glass. But of course, he looked at it and was like, "Yeah, why not?"
And there you have it. There's an amazing influence of Thief on new games.
But to be honest, it doesn't surprise me because I learned that you made the Flooded District when you made that thread on Twitter, and I
Yeah.
actually didn't know it was you at the time. And then I realized it was you. I was like,
Yeah,
okay, that
and
clicks now.
And
in the shadows,
also,
avoid the light.
and then there was in Prey this shipping and receiving gate to the outside, which I liked still because it's an arcane game. So
Well, to be fair, shipping and receiving is just a word that exists.
yes,
I-
but
I
come
worked
on,
at Sears, and we had a shipping and receiving.
let's please, it's meant there are YouTube videos about that.
Forgive him, so fanboy he can't help himself to
Well-
see thief everywhere.
It was Pura who actually made that. I'm pretty sure. No.
Pretty sure. In Dishonored 2, we had Steve Russell playing Corvo, and we had him say, "It's a long way down,"
Yeah,
just like Garrett says at the Bone
Yes.
Horde. And I made sure to put that line in the Clockwork Mansion.
And we talked about that with Steven as well in our episode with him. It's a signature line. Yeah. I like how that all comes together. Like, like people match and then you meet that one person you worked on a Thief fan mission years ago and you meet them at another studio. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of great folks from the fan mission times who have gone pro.
Yeah. I think what I read once is that a lot of level designers started with a dark mod.
The Dark Mod, that's cool.
Sorry, I mean with a Dromat. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope
yeah.
that the Dark Mod folks also are receiving success. I've actually never played a Dark Mod mission. I'm sorry, Dark Mod folks.
It actually got a new update recently with volumetric lighting and all that kind of
it's
stuff.
still
It looks
growing.
fantastic.
It's still growing.
And
Well,
they just
it's,
released like 4 missions in the last 4 weeks or something.
I had question, but while you were answering the community question, and we've gone further than the questions themselves, we have accidentally answered all my questions. So there's nothing left for me.
I do have one last question. What was the impulse of remaking Gathering at the Bar for COSAS?
That's a very good question. I don't remember. I don't remember. I think it was just kind of like an homage to the history. I feel like it was just kind of like, because the whole like mythology of the correspondence of thieves and Circle of Stone and Shadow was so tied to the fan community. It just felt appropriate to like begin the story with that like very meta reference.
It's fine.
9 Years Sleep, though.
Yeah, it is. Well,
Yeah.
it's still unfinished, but it got released in an unfinished way. But it is still very impressive.
Yeah, as I said, it looks beautiful. It's still nowadays.
Oh yeah. And the style also, like the architecture and the furniture and the objects are just so bizarre as well
And what I
compared to
really
what
love
you
is when
usually see
you,
in
it's
Thief.
pretty at the beginning, there are those windows to the outside, and then you see those little mountains, and the sun is just, it's dawn. And this looks
My
so amazing.
my goal with that project was to, in a lot of ways, to like stop trying to make sense and just embrace purely just like the feelings that I was having in my head of like I have all these images of being on this adventure, and I couldn't figure out how to make a map out of it, so I just kind of did everything and threw it together. And I like the to me the cardinal sin of 9 Years Sleep was that it was purely focused on the the art direction, the emotional design, the atmospheric design, but I never gave any thought to the gameplay. I never gave any thought to what would the player actually be doing in these spaces. It was totally a tour of these moments that I had in my head of being interesting and mysterious and provocative, but I couldn't think through how it would actually be like a game. And I feel like that's part of why it kind of was just doomed to never become a thing. It was it was totally focused on just these imaginary moments, this like the feeling of being in these places, these images, these this strange place that you could find yourself in. But what's the game? What's the gameplay? What is the player doing here? What is the fun? What's the I think it never really. I don't think it would have been possible to finish.
Because they had insane imagination when it comes to all of these alternate universe Hammerites buildings and structures and the
Yeah,
history and all the lore. But like if you open some of the maps that are available, most of them unfinished. There's just not much really.
yeah,
So yeah, I kind of imagine they also collapsed like
yeah.
this.
It was really focused on just like snapshots of this emotional reaction to spaces, but it never really came together. And there were people who really wanted to carry it on, and I feel really sorry because I don't remember who they are. But yeah, this was it was fun to work on because it was very just free and pure. It
It's one of the best
yeah,
things
it's free
about
and
modern,
pure.
really.
So,
So I'm happy to have worked on it, but it kind of wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of projects, among fans that start with great ambitions. Then, yeah, it doesn't happen because of things.
I mean, the big secret is that it was primarily a hodgepodge of my earliest Drummond work. I had created all these little maps
Yeah.
just based purely on like I have this image in my head of this cool environment and I would try to make it. And so when I made 9 Years Sleep, I'm like, okay, I've got a huge library of these like fascinating experiments. Let me see if I can create like one map out of it. And I think it shows.
Honestly, no.
Okay. I'm
I don't think
surprised.
so.
It is
Yeah. No.
it is a lot of really weird ideas.
Like I've always found the thing always rather coherent, personally.
Yes, it
It
stick
was
together.
it wasn't coherent at all.
I think it's mostly really because of the just again the vision that you had of that foreign land, which is very far removed from what's in Thief, and it's very unified in a way. So I don't think that it's really visible that there are like really scraps put together in that sense.
I can only agree.
Here. It's an illusion.
What isn't?
Philosophers here.
The word is an illusion.
Yeah.
I was almost thinking that Supreme was going to say, "Oh yeah, let's talk about illusory walls in Elden Ring."
So, guys, is there anything you want to bring to the table?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah.
That yeah meant no.
Yes, so that's a yes, which means no. I
Okay,
have no
the-
more
the-
questions.
The yes was a no. Okay. No, I think
That was because I was thinking, why saying the yes? But no, I have no more questions.
it was more like a yeah, I agree, or something like that. Yes.
yes, more like that. Yes.
Yeah. I think we covered a lot, and yeah, we're very grateful, Dana, for all your thoughts and knowledge and everything you brought to the table and your honesty here. I'm a bit overwhelmed, and I think the Taffers will love, to hear from you and to hear your story and everything you said. So thank you very much for participating here.
Oh, you're welcome. And if you're listening now and you've listened this far, then thank you for listening.
Yeah, that's always interesting, but the way people react to special guests, like mostly they listen to that fully.
Yeah, I remember the Cloud Stream episode is like 3 hours and a
Yes.
half or something.
It's only been it's been 2.5 hours.
Yeah, we are it's a short episode. I think Cletremus was the longest, and then Daniel Tron was like 2 minutes short of that.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
that was
very
a big
long,
one as well.
Very long.
Well, maybe someday we can talk about Dishonored Deathloop. We'll see.
Oh yeah, what a great idea! We should do that. I never thought about this.
I know, what a wild idea.
That was obviously a teaser. There might be an episode about your current work in the future. I just have to contact some officials at Bethesda and stuff.
Well, I don't know about my work in the future, but we can definitely talk about my past work.
No, I meant we will have an episode in the future that.
Right, the episode will be the episode about the past will be in the future.
Right, and that's the yes as a
Yes.
no.
The word is an illusion. Remember, we just said it.
Yeah,
Time is convoluted.
And so the circle of shadows and stone closes. So yeah, Dana, anything you want to add? Anything you want to send to the community at the end of this episode?
I guess I can just say my name is Dana. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a trans woman. I have changed a lot since you last knew me. That's all.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, SKACKY and FIREMAGE, for joining me and supporting me in this. And
We thank you, Azer.
Yep.
Thank
you,
you,
Dana,
Dana.
for accepting. Thank you, Supreme, for the invitation.
And thank you, Supreme,
thank you
the
for inviting
podcast.
me. This was a lot of fun.
yeah, and thank you, Taffers, for listening. And yeah, let us know your feedback and think of questions about the work at Arcane. Maybe So you can
And for
post them.
all the folks who helped me out on Mission X and Gathering of the End and Fables, I miss you. I love you. I hope you're well.
And we should get you in contact with Brethren. So maybe you can ask some questions you asked me about some people. Maybe he knows more. Yeah, that's it, folks. Yeah, I'm happy. Thank you very much to everybody, and see you next time, Taffers. Bye.
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 I wonder what happened here.